What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, want to talk about the pretty big rumor that Hi-Fi Rush is making its way onto other consoles. Specifically, in this case, it looks to be the Nintendo Switch. Now, the original rumor did say, I believe, PlayStation and Nintendo Switch. As the day has gone, and this kind of started Friday, as Saturday went on, it seems like the Switch is definitely the target. And there's probably room to talk about this, I guess, again, if and when, I suppose, right, it officially gets announced. But there's some, like, pretty big insiders that feel very, very confident that it's going to happen. Originally, it was a tease, right? It was some Xbox game that, hey, when it came out, it did really well critically, and, you know, they want to get it on other consoles or other platforms. So, hey, maybe if there's a sequel to it, it kind of gets people into it, and it'll eventually bring them into the Xbox ecosystem. And people were throwing around suggestions or ideas, I guess, of what it could be, and it really, in my opinion, came down to Pentiment or Hi-Fi Rush. And Hi-Fi Rush was the first one that I went to, a game that, you know, when they say it came out in a year and it did critically well, it was in Game of the Year kind of discussion. Well, Hi-Fi Rush last January, so this past year, right, in discussion for Game of the Year, and it was. And as I've actually said, Hi-Fi Rush is my second favorite game of the entire year, beaten only by Alan Wake 2. So I am a massive fan of this game. I hope that we can get more from it, and I want to talk about that in this video as well, because I don't think you do this if the franchise is done, which makes me very happy. But I first want to address just some of the criticism that's already kind of come out. And again, this is a rumor. This is a rumor, and we also don't know for sure if it is Hi-Fi Rush. People are confident, but it's not confirmed. It hasn't been announced yet, right? But I guess the criticisms and the back-and-forth fights on social media so far is basically just because you have a console, an Xbox in this case, right? You have them as an entity putting their exclusive on a competing platform. And whether it does come out on PlayStation as well as Switch, now, here's the thing. To me, it doesn't make a difference. If it comes out just on Switch or if it comes out on PlayStation and on Switch, it doesn't change really anything else I'm about to say for the rest of this video. So you can assume whichever you want, but it's not going to change what I say. I think it's a great idea. I'll say a few things. I think for a game like Hi-Fi Rush or Pentiment, or even, there was a Psychonauts 2 thing, but I think Psychonauts 2 is on PlayStation. I think it's on PS4. I played it personally on Xbox, but people were saying it was on PlayStation. But I think any game in that kind of area or in that grouping, I think it makes a lot of sense to do it. And this is an argument that people have already said, but I'll echo it here and I'll try to talk a little bit more about it. A game like Hi-Fi Rush, right, already did its job, whatever the job was. And this is a game that is not the biggest game of all time. It is not going to sell systems. It is not even necessarily going to sell Game Pass subscriptions, right? This is a game that, in my opinion, is extremely, extremely good. They put it out as a product. It's just another game, right? But it stands out. I mean, it's not to, diminish how good it is, but it's a game. It's not Halo. It's not the next Gears of War. It's not Indiana Jones, right? This is a game that's kind of under the radar. And honestly, this has been a discussion for a while. How did Hi-Fi Rush even do? We really don't know, right? Phil Spencer talks it up actually quite a bit, which I'm happy about because I want the game to succeed. But we don't know the numbers. We don't know how many millions played it and whether it was all on Game Pass. Did anybody buy this game? We don't know. We truly do not know. But we can take educated guesses to say it's not going to do as well as Indiana Jones, or it's not going to do as well as Starfield, or even maybe Avowed right next year. Whatever, okay? So with all that being said, does it hurt by putting it on other platforms? No, not really, right? Now, you have to pay a certain fee, right? If you buy a game on a different platform store, some of the money does go to them. So you could argue, well, they're helping Nintendo, they're helping Sony, right? A certain percentage of the payment has to go to them. But then the rest goes to, the rest goes to Xbox. So what you're doing is, well, the game has already done anything it's going to do on Game Pass, right? Like I said earlier, the game is out. The game's been out for a year. Whatever it was going to do, it already did. And now that it's done that, you can try to expand its player base. That's all this is. In my opinion, all it's trying to do is, hey, we accomplished whatever we wanted it to accomplish a year ago. It's been out for a year. It's not going to do any better now. It's not suddenly going to hit the gas pedal and do insane, a year later. That's not the kind of game that it is. So why not put it on a different system, see if you can sell a couple 100,000. And again, the rumor is, as I said, well, what if there's more and we're using Hi-Fi Rush as an example here, and maybe it is the game that it's happening to, right? Well, what if there's more Hi-Fi Rush? Well, the hope is that you get people to like it that's on Switch, that's on PlayStation, and they go to Xbox when you make a sequel and you make it only Xbox exclusive, right? Like it's not even that hard, and I really don't understand why people are all that mad. It would be, I think you could make a stronger argument if it was the Halos, if it was the Gears, because I think that would be more of an indicator that you're almost giving up on your console. I wouldn't think of it entirely like that, but that would be, I would say, what the model would move to, right? By the way, there's definitely a possibility that, say, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, right? You talk about the future of these console makers. Well, if Xbox doesn't want to make consoles anymore, they really don't even need to. Their plan is to have you play anywhere. If they can actually get Game Pass on Switch or on, let's say, Nintendo and on PlayStation, if they can do that, say these bridges are actually, built between these companies. If they can do that, they don't really need their console. Consoles are generally made at a loss anyway. You can just be a publisher with all of your different games that are out. You have Game Pass, so you have such a huge money flow coming in, and you just put out games. I think that's honestly the future for Microsoft and for Xbox specifically. So, if they did it for Halo, if they did it for Gears, yeah, that shows a weakness maybe in the Xbox console, but it actually doesn't show a weakness in Xbox itself, right, in the ecosystem. It depends on what they're trying to do, right? If they care about the future of the console and they, all they really want is that, it's more of a risk, right? Because you're assuming that you can get people on future games. But if you give somebody a Halo game, well, they might just stay on their platform. If you could play Halo on PS6, well, is there a possibility you would jump to an Xbox for the next Halo game? Yeah, but there's also a possibility that you kind of take it and run, right? So I would agree. I mean, it's more risky. That is more risky, and that is more of an argument about the strength of the console. But, again, Xbox might not even care about the console, in another half decade or full decade. There might not be a console. But for a game like this, to end the video, we've already said this one more time. For a game this size, it doesn't matter. You're not getting Game Pass subscriptions. You're not making a ton of money off of this game. And if you did back last January, last February. That's when you were making stuff off of this game. You're not doing anything with it right now. So why not put it on the other, systems? And you could say, well, Alex, would Sony do the same? Well, maybe they should. I'm not saying this is exclusive to an Xbox thing. I'm just saying I've seen some, arguments online, which is, obviously that's going to happen with console warrior kind of stuff. But I think this is a good move because I think Hi-Fi Rush is a great game. I want more people to play it if possible. And if they're giving an opportunity, why not? And then I guess the final thing, as I said way in the beginning, is this a sign that Hi-Fi Rush is not, done? This could have been a one-and-done game, right? Like Tango, they make kind of all sorts of different things, but there's no guarantee that you would ever get another Hi-Fi Rush, especially if it didn't do all that well, which, again, we don't really know. So by putting it on other platforms, to me at least, that shows me the franchise, they want to keep it around. You're trying to increase the player base. I think you want to do more with Hi-Fi Rush. So, again, you know how much I love this game. I've talked about it all year. I'd absolutely sign up for a Hi-Fi Rush 2, and I would argue it would probably be one of the better games of the year it releases in. Oh, and I forgot this, but I did want to say it. I do wonder how this thing would perform on Switch. That is one thing that would very much worry me depending on when it comes out. If it comes out for like a Switch 2, I don't think it'd be a big deal, right? Because we don't really know the specs there. But for the Switch, the base Switch, Hi-Fi Rush needs to run as fluidly as possible, right? It needs a very steady frame rate. It's literally all about beats. It's all about matching what you're seeing on screen and what you're hearing. If the Switch can't handle it and there's any kind of frame rate jumping or falling, that would ruin the gameplay part of it. So if it is coming out on Switch, which I think would be the guarantee, PlayStation would that's maybe more iffy, right? But Switch I think makes more sense. You would need to make sure it runs really, really well, because if it doesn't, the game is going to suffer more than an average game because the combat is so reliant on visually seeing it and I guess hearing it, but you can look at visual cues too, right? That's very important to this game. So I do wonder how that's going to work. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.